Let me just get my, oh, here she is. She's on now.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Shir. Hi, Nirit. I see Rob's here, and I think we have a few more people as well. So we do have 5 more minutes, so thank you all for joining early. I appreciate it. And we'll begin at 1 p.m. Our speakers are already here, so what we will do here, and I will just introduce Nirit, that she's from a moshav up north, and she'll also introduce herself as well. But she's currently a Israel Fellow in University of Arizona, and for her 2nd year already. And she has a first degree in special education as well. And Nirit, please add and introduce yourself as well once you begin. But that's the general information about Nirit, and then we will go on to Shir afterwards. Feel free to begin.
So hi everybody. Just I want to make sure, can you hear me? Do yes with your heads or no? Well, okay, great. So hi everybody. So as Netta said, currently I'm also in the USA. So I'm living in Arizona now. And I'm an Israel Fellow at the university. So mostly I'm focusing on Israel education with students' college and all the things that going on at the university relates to Israel. And in 2 months from now, I will finish my role and I will go back to Israel. But we'll see what's going on with this crazy Corona time. And first, I want to thank all of you that you join us. And I would say it's really meaningful to me to see, how many people cares and take the time like to join the Zoom time. And I will start to share my army story. So I made some PowerPoint, I can say, that you can see some photos and understand more. So I just will share my screen.
Wait, can you actually do that? I don't know if
No.
Okay, because I need to make you a co-host. 1 second, I'll make you a co-host.
Okay. So I will start to share until we'll do it. So I grew up north of Israel in a small moshav close to Haifa. And in the area that I grew up, it's like people try to get to the best units in the army. Like, people want to do their best to join. And this is the environment that I grew up in. And here we go. I will share with you.
Good.
Okay. Can you see? Great.
Yes.
So if this is the Israel map, like I grew up north, you can see the red sign. It's really close to Naalal, which is the first moshav in Israel. This is where I went to high school. And I actually grew up like in a nature area, as you can see. Before my army service, I chose to do Shnat Shirut. So before I will tell you the differences. So about the army service, it is mandatory for all Israel citizens, except of the ultra-Orthodox Muslims and female from the Druze society. About Shirut Leumi, this is an option for people that like more maybe religious and choose like to volunteer and to do community service instead of the military. And Shnat Shirut, it's like a gap year. It's an option to volunteer or in a youth movement or in like boarding schools or in like JNF in Israel, if you're familiar with it, or different like platforms to volunteer before the army service. So as I said, I grew up in an area that like everybody wants to volunteer and wants to give back to the country. I chose to do the Shnat Shirut, which is the gap year. Like my new family, we live together, 10 people in a house. We volunteered in a boarding school for kids with psychiatric problems. It was really tough year. I was 18 when I did that. And it was really meaningful and I learned a lot from this year. And after that, I joined to the IDF and I served 3 years. So I started my job as a sniper instructor. So here you can see some photos. So first, I did the basic training as any soldier, which is just to learn what is the army about, what is a commander. And after 2.5 months of basic training, I did the sniper course, which also was 2.5 months. And during this course, we actually learn how to be snipers. So I did the exact courses the combats do, and actually a little bit more, because we need to like be professional and to know most of the answers, so all the answers to the questions. So usually a sniper course, it's a month and a half, and we did all the instructors 2.5. If you can see in the photo, all of us girls. So all the instructors that like learned with me were girls, mostly like the boys are the combats, and we need to teach them how to be a sniper and a spotter and to do all the training. Yeah, I can go more to details, but I don't want, that it will be so long. So after that, like, feel free to ask me any question. I can say about like the daily life. So it was like we wake up around 5, 6 a.m., like start to do training in the morning, like physical training, go to eat breakfast. A lot of time we went to the range. We had classes, exams to learn all like the things that we need to know to be a sniper. And we had different trainings. And also you can see we celebrate holidays in the army. So it's not all day training. So this is the Purim celebration. Our costume, it's, I don't know how to say it in English, but the animal that symbolizes the base. And yeah, and after a year in the position as a sniper instructor, I decided to join to the officers course. I just felt I want to do something else to give more. It was great to be a sniper instructor. I trained so many different combats and different units. And at the same time, I felt I want to grow up more. I want to have more responsibility. So this is during the officers course. As you can see, all our barrettes in different colors, because each one of us from different units. I'm here with the red one, with the red barret. And during the officer course, we have a lot of classes of what is to be a leader, different rules, different trainings that will know to do our position on the best way. And this is more photos while I was an officer. So as an officer, I served as an officer of operations, which is mean I was responsible to the border with Lebanon. So all the time when we had, I will say that, when we get some announcement that something going on next to the border, I need to make sure that all the combats go to the point, if we need to send the medics, who that we need to send to make sure everything under control. It's like to manage all the events that's going on next to the border. I would say that a lot, like with the border with Lebanon, it's really sensitive. Hezbollah, which is a terror organization, it's just right there. And a lot of stuff we don't hear the news because a lot of things it's more the intelligence field. And it's still really sensitive, I will say, area. I wish one day it will be different, but for now, this is the reality. So yeah, I had like under me 30 soldiers at all the time. I need to make sure if each soldier do what they need. If something happened, the soldiers need to call to the different combat units or all the different crews to make sure we'll not have any soldiers that will get hurt. So yeah, this is about my army service. As I said, I served 3 years because I chose to be an officer. So when I served, it was mandatory 2 years for females. And now they changed it. Actually, now it's 2 years and 4 months for females. So I served 2 years and I chose to do 1 more year as an officer. So this is about my service.
Thank you. I'll just note that if you have any questions while they're speaking, and I know that you might forget them, so just feel free to write in the chat exactly. So Emily's already asked a question, so that's great, and we'll refer to the questions at the end. So I'll allow Shir now to speak. But Nirit, maybe before I give it to Shir, do you have any particular experience from your service that you perhaps want to share that stood out for you? Or if not, want to wait for questions, that's fine as well. But
so I would say, as a sniper instructor, a lot of times we have trainings that we need actually to look at the weapon, like at the telescope. And I remember one of them, it was, I think, almost 5 hours. They took out our watch. I didn't know what the time is. It was freezing outside. And our role was just to lay down, look at the weapon, and like look for the sign if there is an enemy. It was just a training, so we didn't have an enemy. But if there is, that like we'll be ready. And I really remember that I lay down for a while, and all the time I thought about all the soldiers that I'm training, that they actually need to do it in a real life situation. I'm in the base, it's safe and everything okay, but just to think about, my friends that serve in like a combat unit and actually need to take the risk and to do it, was really powerful. So we lay down in the weapon, and then the commander like say our number, and like, let's say if you say 5, I need to shoot and to try to hit the target. And the target made out of barzel, I don't know how to say it. Like it's
metal.
Like metal, yeah. And the target is like a metal that you need to shoot. And actually I did really well. I think it just was a good luck. But they say that they've never seen a good shot like that. So I'm like, okay, thank you for that. So I would say was a really powerful and also tough time. As an officer, I finished my service in 2013. It was a year before the operation with the Gaza Strip in 2014, productive age, I think in English. But also in 2013, we almost had an operation, and all the reserve units, or a lot of reserve units, was called to the base, and we started to train everybody. And I just remember that it's really hard time to know that your country now needs to go and to take a big risk, that it's your friends, your family, that might will go to fight soon. And I was an officer by then, so my role is to make sure everybody are ready for, I don't know, the time that they need to be called. And in 2013, at the end, we didn't go to an operation, but in 2014 we did. So you never know. So yeah, this is I think the hard life under a conflict in general.
Yeah, and the constant tension, basically, that you always feel, no matter if you actually, God forbid, war does happen or it doesn't happen. So thank you, Nirit. Now I'll refer to Shir.
Wow.
So Shir is recently finished her degree and now works at JVP, which I used to know what it stands for, but I don't know anymore. And
Jerusalem Venture Partners.
Jerusalem Venture Partners, thank you, and works for a new startup that's involved in technology and agriculture, and as well as involved in a initiative to have young people stay in Jerusalem and create various events for that population as well. So she will explain better about herself, but she also was a female sniper instructor and was an officer as well, but not an operations officer like Nirit. She had a different position regarding instruction. So she will relate to that about that as well.
So hi, my name is Shir. I'm talking to you guys from Jerusalem. Actually, I do have a California flag above me just because I used to live there growing up, but I'm originally from Haifa, which is up north on the shore. And I guess my route and Nirit's route are pretty much very, very close and very, very alike, since we were both sniper instructors in the IDF. I think there's something quite powerful about having women instruct soldiers and combat soldiers. I think it's one of the best positions that women can have and can contribute to the IDF. There is a limitation sometimes with a physical limitation for us being combat soldiers. And this is why I think teaching was one of the best options for females in the Army. It's one of the best purposes I could have. You don't really choose what to do in the Army. They just kind of let you get this kind of letter, and then you're assigned to this and that job. Both me and Nirit recruited to a general, it's called Field Unit Instructor course. And from there, you kind of like get your position in what you're gonna teach. So I recruited back in 2012. It was actually, I was 2 months in the Army into CASLED, which was one of the operations Nirit was talking about that we didn't go into the Gaza Strip, but the preparation was full on. I think this is one of my, one of the most powerful moments, just because you get to see the power of the Army. All of a sudden there's a base in Bislach, which is the School of Infantry and Command, base that I recruited to, also Nirit recruited to the same base. It's a big base considered in the Army, but it's not huge, and people come and go because it is an instructor base. People come and get instructed on various weapons or different skills and then go back to their home unit. So you do see a lot of people, but preparing for CASLED was a huge amount of people. I've never seen so many people in the Army before, and it was just like this feeling, and you get all those reserves coming into the base. And in the end of the day, we didn't go by foot into Gaza Strip, which I'm really glad, because we're all pro peace in the end. And if the government decided that we reached our goals, then I guess we did in that operation. But only then, this is how I started my IDF, my service. And so I did my basic training, and then I went into my sniper course. My sniper instructor course was just 2.5 months long. And after a while, actually after 8 months, I joined officer course. And officer course was great. It's a lot of units coming together, a lot of people from all various, either it's units in the Army and a lot of different jobs. We're all going into the same place. And after that, I was an instructor officer. So I was officer for girls who instructed on this type of APC. Netta, can I share a screen?
Wait,
I don't think I can.
to. No, you can't, but let me try to make you a host as well. 1 second. Here.
I just want to show them.
Yeah, I know. 1 second. We can here share. There we go. There you go. Okay. Yeah, you should be able to share now.
Okay, let me see. So it's kind of a small picture. Can you guys see? Yes? So this is the APC. I was an officer of the course. So the girls who taught how to drive this tank, how to drive this APC, were my soldiers. So it was a weekly based course. We saw a lot of soldiers during that time. This APC, especially because it has the tube in the bottom is very, very heavy and very, very thick, so it protects against bombs, and it's also very high. I don't really have a better picture of it. I guess it wasn't. Maybe this is my girls, my soldiers on that APC. So they taught the combat soldiers how to drive this and how to operate its systems. And yes, it's a real rainbow. We used to go out to the field a lot because it's a driving rally. Like, you guys imagine like the big car driving rally. We had the same for our tanks, which was it was amazing. We had to build it from sand because it is in the Negev, in the desert. And this is what I did for my service as an officer. I also served for 3 years. by my last summer as not my last, actually it was my middle summer as an officer in 2014, we were part of Protective Edge. It was madness in the Army. Kind of, it's just, I think commanders and a lot of different kind of jobs in the Army, what's very special about them is in the regular day basis, you're really used to what you're doing. You're teaching, and it's a week course, or it's a day operations and stuff like that. And then once there's a real danger, a real war or an operation going on, then all of a sudden we go from let's say we work every day 60% hard, and it's an everyday job kind of, even though it's special and it's different. It's a lot of field. It's not stuff that people our age do around the world, I guess. But then once there is an operation going on, you just go to 3,000,000% of working hard. And it was a very, very hard experience in some points, but very gathering together. I was on base from the kidnap of the 3 soldiers to 2 weeks after Protective Edge ended, because they still wanted to keep us on base to see if there's going to be any kind of emergency. So I was on base almost for 3 months in total without seeing my family. And actually these days when I didn't go back for Passover to see my family, because I'm in Jerusalem and they live in Haifa. And every time I kind of get talked about it, my mom always reminds me, it's I didn't see you for 3 months during Protective Edge, so I think we're going to be fine. It was a much worse condition than what you are now. And during the operation, actually we were on the lines with our combat soldiers, talking to them kind of like a coach coaches a team before they go into a game. We were just like that, just reminding them of all the stuff they need to do, how to drive correctly, how to operate the systems correctly. We had red phones with them for into the field if there's any kind of emergency. So it's being a instructor is a real life, it's a real life job, and a lot of time I'm still affected by it, I guess. There's stuff I do in my life that I compare to it quite a lot, either the experience of being a girl in the Army and a woman in the Army and having to be sometimes dealing with that and those challenges, to being an instructor and knowing having kind of this meaning in life. So this is what I did. I was also an officer who after Protective Edge, I was an officer who was in charge of all the new teaching plans. So we had to kind of change a lot of our operation, a lot of our teaching plans after the operation, because there was a lot of conclusions. Let's say how to work in a build in a build atmosphere, not an open field. Those big vehicles with big APCs are so used to driving in an open field. Now we had to teach the soldiers how to drive in between houses, because this is the field that we were dealing with. So it was very, very challenging, and it was under Army schedule. So we wrote about 80 teaching plans in a couple of months in a very short time with a big team, and we had to have everything approved. It was a very, I guess, a good experience for me, because I had to talk in front of very high commands in the IDF in order to get everything approved, and to justice what I think is correct and how to teach and what is important to put emphasis on. And we also did have a lot of fun during the service. Like Nirit said, let's say this is a picture of me and my soldiers in one of the field days, and on the driving days, we were just having fun with it. And my soldiers are now one of my, they're my best friends. I used to go and see them when they finished their officer course and where they got their next jobs. And it was very, very, very empowering. And this is, I just want to show you one last picture. This is one of my happiest days as my last sunrise, in the IDF in my service. We used to have crazy hours, waking up very early, going to sleep very, very late. And this was my last sunrise, which was very, very exciting for me. That's it, I guess.
Great. Thank you so much, Shir. Well, I mean, it's interesting to compare the experiences because Nirit was, you know, in Lebanon border and operations, and you continued the instruction as well in a more, you know, higher position. So I really think that it gives us a wide variety of options of someone who both started out as sniper instructors in different times, you know, and experiencing different things in the IDF, but how that developed, and you both served for 3 years as well. So thank you. And before I refer to the questions, we're going to do a little bit of a detour, but a very blessed and positive detour that Nirit will share with us, a personal story about a family member. And it's, again, not related directly to sniper instructors, but I think it's very relevant to being in IDF service. And it actually relates to what we'll be talking about next time in the series of my IDF service, which is next Sunday on the 26th. So I'll let Nirit share the story, and then I will share what will be next time before we actually go to the questions.
Okay. So before that, I will share the story just so that a lot of people ask like how we became sniper instructors. So I will connect it to the story. So first I will say every citizen in Israel, when he's 17 or she's 17, get like a letter from the army. I need to do some tests. We have like a full day of different tests, more mentally and some logical questions, just to see, like, I don't know, where we are at and what is our knowledge. For some positions, we have also extra tests and some not. Specifically, to be an instructor, you need like to do extra. So after we filled out, like, we did this day of, I don't know, tests. They asked me to fill out which positions I want the most. But it's not mean I can choose what I want to do. It just, in general, that they will see what are my preference. So we did that, and then they did us a different test to be an instructor. After 2.5 months of the basic training, just then I knew that I will be a sniper instructor. At the beginning, I just knew that I will be an instructor. Actually, I want to be a navigator instructor. I didn't get it. I cried a lot. A lot of people cry when they get which position they will do. But then after a month, I understood, okay, I got something meaningful and I can't ask for better. It was really powerful, and I knew I'm doing something important. So I would say no one helped me to get this position. I did the test like anyone else. And I think a lot of soldiers, you know, just do the test and get what they get. And I will connect it to the story of my cousin Ofer. So I will share this screen again. And I saw someone ask me to do it bigger, but I don't think I can't, because I can't make it bigger from here. So I hope you can see. Okay. So life in a country.
I'll just say, if anybody's having difficulty in seeing, on the top right corner, you can make it full screen, and then you can see Nirit's screen like she would see it, and it's pretty big. So just try that if anybody has difficult seeing.
Okay, just because I can't download it, it's just on this platform.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Passover night, 2002. It was during the time of the second Intifada in Israel. During the Passover night, as you know, a lot of families celebrate, and a lot of families went to celebrate in Hotel Park in Netanya. I'm sure some of you remember that. It was one of the biggest terror attacks that we had. 140 people got injured and 30 people was killed during a Passover night when 2 terrorists came into the hotel and bombed themselves. It was in Netanya, which is close to Tel Aviv. it was a big strategy, all the country in shock, like how evil you can be in doing like, I don't know, something like that in one of the most holy holidays for us. And I was 11 years old when it happened. This is some photos. And actually in this terror attack in the Passover night, one of my best friends, she lost both of her grandparents. So this was really hard time. And during this time, my cousin Ofer, he served in an elite unit called the Shir 13, which is similar to the Navy SEALs. So in 2004, his crew was sent to Nablus to find the terrorists. So here, this is the photo that you can see with the red circle. This is the target or the house. So a lot of time, I would say from the intelligence point, when we know that we need to catch some terrorists, we have two options. One is to send a rocket on the house, and then it's to destroy the house. Maybe there are innocent people, and sometimes you hear the news, I don't know, Israel bombed a house, There are a lot of reasons behind it. It's not just wake up one morning, okay, let's bomb a house. It's because there are people that involved with terror that was responsible to a big terror attack. So one of the options is to bomb the house. Other option is to send a crew. In this situation, the government and the IDF decided to choose the crew of my cousin. They went to the house, and let's see if this will be activated. I want to show you. Oh, okay, it's not working. So they went to the house and stand behind the house. After 5 minutes, fire started like to go into them. Like the two terrorists surprised them and started to open a fire. 2 seconds after, my cousin Ofer got a bullet on his shoulder. And a bullet or go into a shoulder and outside, or go into a shoulder, make circles and destroy things in your body. So Ofer got a bullet, and the bullet actually made circles in his body. It cut his lung, went 2 centimeters, which is really a little bit, from his heart, and cut his spinal cord in his back. Immediately he couldn't walk, he just fell down, and he understood that he got injured. He could continue fight with the terrorist that was in front of him, but he was in really critical time because every breath that he took, he had blood in his lungs and not air. And you know, if you don't have air, this is like quick and done. His commander, Moran Vardi, heard that he got injured in the Okie-Tokie, and Moran said to him, okay, Ofer, I'm coming to help you. Moran ran into his direction to try to help him and to save his life. And while Moran is running to Ofer direction, Moran got a bullet in his head and he was killed immediately. Moran, he was the commander of the crew. And this is a big thing to lose your commander. You know, the crew needs someone that will control everything, that will lead them. And also they lost a friend. Moran was 25 years old when it happened. And immediately, like, a helicopter came and like took Moran and also my cousin to the hospital. It's important to say Moran served a full military service, and when he was 22, he joined, or he participated in the Operation Keren A, which also was a big operation to catch a terrorist ship. And Moran lost his friend Nir, which you can see both of them in this photo. This is Moran with the black shirt and Nir with the green shirt. And Nir was killed in a different operation called Defensive Shield that was around 1998, I want to say. And Nir's dream was to be an officer, but his dream didn't come true. And Moran actually finished his army service. He went to travel to New Zealand with his girlfriend that you can see in the other photo. And he just said, you know what? After the big trip in New Zealand, I need to come back to the military. I need to make my friend my friend dream come true, his friend Nir, and to be an officer. And then Moran became an officer. And it's really important to understand when you finish your army service, you're so happy, you want to be free, you want to go to college, you want to travel the world and to do whatever you want. But in this point, Moran actually chose to come back to the IDF and to serve as an officer, and then he became the crew, the head of the crew of my cousin. And so I think it shows a lot about his personality and about his power and his value for friendship. And I will go back to my cousin. So he was in really critical situation. He went to the hospital. They knew that like it's 50-50 what will happen. And actually survived it. And until today, he's with wheelchair. So you can see here. So the bullet that went to his body, because it cut his spinal cord, he can't walk. So he's paralyzed. But if you ask him, he will say that he will do exactly the same. He will join to the Shir 13. Also, if he knew that everything, that he will become paralyzed. I just think that it's like so important to serve your country, and if we'll not protect Israel, like who will, you know? And I would say about Ofer, he did 8 months of like in the hospital. He did rehabilitation, like
Yeah, rehabilitation, yeah.
yeah. And after 8 months, Ofer said, you know what? I want to do a big trip, like a lot of Israelis do after the army service. Ofer went with his 2 friends to South Africa with a big jeep. They traveled all around with a wheelchair, with a bag of medicines. And he just said, you know, I can't give up. I need to choose to live. This is the life that I have now, but I need to try to get the most out of it. And he started to do ski. So I will show you some video. He's sitting on the chair and he actually can do ski also when he's paralyzed and can't walk. It's some of it in Hebrew, but you can see the photos. Okay. So you can see there, like, you know, he's doing ski, and after that, he also joined and started to do canoeing, and he got the 10th place in the Europe competition, and he gave to Moran family the medal. So until today, Moran family and Ofer like in really good touch, and like they meet all the time. And when Ofer, okay, this is the ski time. When Ofer was 25, he like went to a bar one day, you know, just with friends, and then he saw Shachar. And when he saw her, she just fell in love with his personality. She said that she didn't see the wheelchair, she didn't see a person with disability, she just saw his personality. And after 4 months, they got engaged. And after a year, they got married. So you can see here some photos. And after a year, they had a triplet. So this is the 3 kids. Now they 8 or 9 years old. And this is Shachar, his wife. And they have a normal family, you know, everything keep going, life continuing, also with the wheelchair, also after I would say, tough time that he went through. And I think the message, like, you know, of this story, that like, take life in proportions, you know. We never know what will happen, but some people that are paralyzed, it's because they are our, I don't know, heroes, and you never know what the story of a person. And I think it just shows, you know, life continues in any situation. It just, we need to choose that. So yeah, this is about that.
Thank you so much, Nirit. I really appreciate you know, sharing the personal story, that it came from Nirit. You know, and I was reaching out for her to speak. This was an idea that she had, and I think it really adds and gives more meaning. You know, that we're talking about, you know, your IDF service, but anything can happen during someone's IDF service, and this is your cousin. And I mean, luckily, he was able to, you know, rehabilitate and create some sort of normal life, even though his service made him basically paralyzed. And I'll just say that next week on the 26th, at the same time with the same link as well, we'll be speaking with two soldiers. One is my sister, who was a mashakitash, which is someone who is basically equivalent to a social worker in the army, but more importantly, which is related to this, mashakit nifgaim, who is someone who follows families and who have wooden soldiers in the family. So I assume that a mashakit nifgaim, for example, either is still in touch with Ofer and his family, or was in touch with Ofer and his family, and the idea of that there's somebody in charge of going to people's houses and making sure if the family is okay, if the individual is okay, and if there's a body in the army taking care of wounded soldiers as well. So we'll be discussing that next week. And now I do want to refer to some questions before we run out of time, and I want to respect everyone's time as well. So there were, and Shir and Nirit, you both can answer this, whatever you prefer, but there are a few questions about your relationships with the men, that often you're dealing with men who are snipers themselves, and how was that relationship, or were there any issues in any time, you being in the instructors or the officers, and the relationship with other men who were soldiers who you were either in charge of or had to deal with. So feel free to both share, or just one of you, whoever has what to share.
Okay, so I can start. I would say I really remember the first time that I trained the men. My role was to stand in a class and to teach 30 to 50 men how to be snipers and spotters. At the beginning, it was really stressful, but I felt they have so much respect. I never felt they look at me different as a woman. I just felt they really appreciate that, what I do, and like how patient I am to teach them everything. And I did think, you know, a lot of them, they never been a sniper instructors. We already had the knowledge and like the professionality to teach them. And they became like my friends, you know. It's not like men's, women's, all of us for the same mission together. So this is my experience.
I guess we have a lot of it in common.
Wait, Shir, you're really garbled. 1 second. Yeah, try again.
Hopefully my internet won't let us down. Am I okay?
I personally hear you very garbled. I don't know if other people hear you that way. Oh yeah, you can hear her? No, it's garbled? Okay, so maybe try turning off your audio again.
I did that better now.
No, it's garbled. Do you want to try to go in and out again, or?
Let me just switch to phone audio.
Okay.
I'm telling you, this is what I'm doing for the past months.
Okay. In the meantime,
maybe go to the next question.
Okay. So I'll go to the next question in the meantime, and then she will try to do it on her phone, so then we can have a different audio listening. So another question that people had was if maybe you could define what exactly being a sniper means, because I think that some people see what a sniper is in a certain way. Maybe just perhaps define who exactly you were instructing, what was their position basically as a sniper.
So I can start, and Shir, feel free to add. I hope I will fix the problem. So who we are training? So in a lot of combat units, they have in each crew actually, in the paratroopers, in Golani, Givati, elite units, all the units, or most of the units, like the ones that fight with the legs, I don't know, infantry, the infantry units. They have snipers. So it is mean if they have a crew, let's say each crew it's 20 people, they have in each crew or 2 or 4 snipers, depend. Each sniper has a spotter. So the sniper, this is the one that needs to look at the telescope with the weapon, see the target, check the distance to the target, check the wind, and do all the calculation to see if it's clear enough to shoot. The spotter, he's next to the sniper. They just lay down together. The spotter, he's the one that gives the directions to the target. The spotter has a bigger telescope and he gives directions to the sniper. They have some special language that no one can hear them. And by this way, they can like direct and find the target. Shir, do you want to continue?
Yes, I think a lot of teaching snipers in a broader sense is also about teaching them about how to respect their weapon as well and how to respect using it, whether it's not to put a person or an animal on the target without the respect there is, if only if they're enemies, not to play with a gun, and also respecting the part that you have to clean it correctly. Those are very fragile instruments, very fragile weapons, and it's part of an instructor job to teach the soldier how to clean it to the top to make it as accurate as possible, and also with like the sniper and the watcher sniper too. It's also very, very special seeing how you get soldiers from all different backgrounds in the Israeli society, and a sniper does have to deal with somewhat of math and multiplications and stuff like that, and whether it's a language barrier or math barrier, us as instructors used to sit with the soldiers and teach them maybe stuff that's never been taught before in order to be good snipers, in order to do the math, because you have to watch the distance and by that calculate how you switch your gun or operate your gun. So this is what the sniper to the fire does, which is pretty cool.
Do you want to add also your experience with dealing with men or instructing men primarily?
So,
yeah.
It is somewhat difficult and is somewhat different for an 18-year-old girl to be in front of a class full of usually men. We do rely on the IDF system, as every soldier has a commander, which is, I think, it's very, very important. But it's amazing how confident you get once you practice it, and how confident I watched my soldiers grow up and how confident they got, which was pretty amazing to see. Not letting anyone down, we do have in the IDF system a person on base that is always kind of it's usually a girl. She's in charge of let's say she's an open door if anyone gets harassed or anything like that. And it is very important to teach the girls, or like the teachers from day one, that they have the IDF back and they need to be strong, but there's always the system that is behind them. And I have dealt with stuff as an officer, that you have to apply the chain of command in big sentence. So we do not need anyone to have the army as a, which is very important, as we are dealing with quite young people, 18, 19, 20, 21, and also sometimes an instructor has to face a room or a class full of reserves, which are guys usually in their 30s, and you grow from it. You always grow from it, and it's a very like you get big with that kind of experience and dealing with that kind of stuff. And this is a lot of my most proudest part as an officer and as a commander to my girls, seeing them now after the IDF service, having like dealing with a lot of stuff. And it makes me very, very proud. And I think it's part of it, that not like separating the men and women in the army, making them together and saying to those young men, you're going to be taught by 18-year-old girls and you're going to deal with it. And it's a growing experience.
Great. Thank you both for sharing about your thoughts about that. I'll do a few more questions and then we'll end. So there's a question about what weapons did you use personally? And also there was another question connected to that, if you ever actually had to use them in any situation, whether it was, they said battle or action, but basically, I guess, what weapons did you use, and if you ever were in a situation you had to use them for an operational situation?
So I would say, like, all the soldiers get training on M16 in like the basic training. So this is the basic basic weapon. In the sniper field, we use M24, and we use, it's called Barak, which is 0.388, which this is like the size of the bullet. I also saw someone ask about the distance to the target. I know in kilometer, not in mile. But in kilometer, it's around 1.5 kilometer, more or less. This is like the longest distance. So I hope I answered the question. And also we have for some elite units, we use SR-25. Wow, I finished my army service a while ago. It has been 8 years. I'm surprising that I remember those things. But I would say
it's amazing how you never grow out of it and you remember those stuff in your sleep, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, because I didn't touch it in 8 years. It's not my life now. And about like shooting an enemy field or something, so girls are not allowed. I would say we have some combat girls units, and that they serve next to like peace borders with Egypt or Jordan, and sometimes we add situations that girls need to shoot if terrorists, I don't know, come from Jordan or Egypt. It's also happened in the past. But specifically, like as a sniper instructor, I'm not allowed to go next to the Gaza border or Lebanon border because I'm scared that they kidnapped a woman and then it can be horrible. And so this is like by law.
Shir, do you have anything to add?
So it's the same weapons used in the army. It's amazing how the IDF, because of its situation and ongoing conflict, I would say, the IDF is one of the most new armies in the world because they can change a lot of their technology all over the years. I haven't so it's pretty much the same, but it does change during the course. I haven't shot anyone gladly, and I'm thankful for that. I haven't had the reason I needed to protect myself to that point. But I know that like I have been in a situation. There's situations that they do use the combat soldiers, the instructors, in order to be like beneath the line, like very, very far, in order, if there's like an extreme situation, we were separated into those kind of teams. But yeah, so gladly I haven't, I wasn't put in that position.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to say that 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I had somebody here who was in a female combat soldier. So she was part of the Karakal unit. And she shared her personal experiences, being in an operational situation in Hebron, and also in the border with Sinai. So if anybody was not there and is interested in receiving that, feel free to reach out to me either here or email afterwards. I'm, again, the Shlicha B'nai Israel, so it's very easy to find my email address. But just to side note about that. Last question that I guess that I would want to ask Nirit and Shir, and then we'll end, is just to share with us either your biggest challenge or your most fulfilling moment during your military experience. You can do both, but maybe just choose one, and that's how then we'll end with that. And whoever wants to start.
I have something. So, and like when we finish our military service, we like do a big meal at the base, and like I wasn't sure, if to invite a lot of soldiers or not. And I thought, okay, we'll invite everybody. Why not? And I said it like to some of the drivers that were in the base, and the drivers are like the more cool ones, I would say. And they decided, all of them, to come to the final party. So this was really exciting moment. They wasn't like my best friends, but as an officer, like all the time we worked together, and all of them came. So I thought, okay, I'm finishing with a big smile my service, and they sent me some text after. So this was really nice to see that, like I touched them, and this was powerful. Yeah.
Thank you. Shir, do you have a moment that was meaningful to you? It doesn't have to be something like that.
I actually talked about it just a bit. Whether it's like seeing my girls go through officer course. I had 4 soldiers that became officers, which was very, very meaningful for me. But also after working on the plans, on the new teaching plans after Protective Edge, and then presenting them to very high in the IDF chain commanders in order to approve them, and actually to have this not an open debate, but kind of like a back and forth debate, I would say, because they are high command, and having them respect a 20-year-old girl that was not inside a foreign field, as we say, but do have the instructor background and do know what we're capable of instructing and what we're capable of getting through and what we're capable of building. So I think that was one of the most meaningful moments for me.
Very nice. So thank you so much, Shir and Nirit, for both joining us. And I don't see Nirit anymore, but I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And I just wanted to say that, again, this is the one before the last one towards Yom HaZikaron, which is taking place next week. And I hope that you'll be able to join us on Sunday at 1 p.m. To hear about people who take care of the soldiers in the army. And this is, again, especially for Yom HaZikaron, which takes place on 27th of the Eve, which I think that's Monday night, Tuesday. So thank you so much for joining us. And I hope to see you next week again. Have a good day and a good week, everyone.
Thank you, Nirit.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank you, Netta.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.